And for more, we're joined by Victoria Scholar in London. She's Head of Investment at Interactive Investor. Welcome back to the programme, Victoria. First of all, how did we get to this point?
Well, some states and small businesses argued that Trump's tariffs are illegal and should be cancelled, and lower courts decided that Trump's use of that 1977 federal law meant that that's meant for national emergencies to impose tariffs actually went beyond his powers, and it involved 3 lawsuits from businesses impacted by the tariffs and then 12 US, mostly Democratic states. So after that, it's now been elevated to the Supreme Court, where it will ultimately be voted on. But this court does have a conservative majority of 6-3 of its 9 members, and Trump has been putting pressure on them to vote for him. So he does have that. Some say that could tip the vote in his favour. But as you mentioned, it typically takes months for these things to go through, although this vote could be a bit quicker because of its significance.
Right, and what were the main arguments set out in the US Supreme Court?
Well, this is a major economic case where the Supreme Court is essentially trying to work out if Trump acted lawfully when he announced those sweeping tariffs on Liberation Day on imports into the US from a whole host of different countries, including its biggest trading partners. And there's been a lot of skepticism from conservative justices about his trade policies. Some question Trump's use of that emergency powers to increase tariffs and argued that it's actually Congress that has the power to impose taxes on Americans. So raising revenue via taxes should really be a role for Congress rather than the president. Whereas the Trump side argues that there would be catastrophic consequences if there's a ruling against him, and that these big trade deficits that the US has with its trading partners like China, that the tariffs aim to deal with, have brought America close to an economic catastrophe. But many dispute this, of course. Lots of economists have actually been very concerned about the damage that tariffs have caused by pushing up prices and raising inflation, which adds to cost of living pressures for Americans by making goods in stores more expensive. But to complicate things further, it's actually quite hard to gauge inflation at the moment because of the US government shutdown, which of course has restricted lots of data releases. We're now in the longest shutdown in US history, but the latest inflation rate was 3% in September. So that's above target, but not a complete disaster as of yet.
Right, and you mentioned that Trump is pressuring justices to vote in his favour. Is it likely that Trump's tariffs could actually be stopped?
Well, if the Supreme Court were to rule against Trump, then it's still quite unlikely that tariffs would be cancelled. They probably will remain in place somehow. And we've heard from US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who said that the administration would look at other legal authorities instead. So they try to use different measures that would have the same effect. So that would be a way to kind of circumvent the decision. So it does feel as though Trump is unstoppable, and he really wants to continue with his signature tariff policy that's really been central to his second term.
Victoria Scholar in London, thank you very much for your time.